Hello, Pacific Ashtanga family. I just want to begin by thanking all of you for, I've got so many nice supportive texts and emails from everyone. I just wanted to say thank you to everybody for being my family and being so loving and supportive. This week we're moving on our studies of The Wise Heart by Jack Kornfield, and we're in the part where we talk more about Buddhist psychology. Now, we have studied Buddhist psychology before, a couple years ago when we studied Buddha brain, and I will come back to that next week. But Buddhist psychology is very simple, and yet as you get into some of the details of it, it can be also very interesting, very complicated. But as you boil it all down, it comes back to this simplicity of there are three roots or three factors in the Buddhist psychology. As you read Jack Kornfield's book, page 54, you can kind of look at the layout. But he talks about the three main healthy factors being love, generosity, and of course, mindfulness. And a lot of what we do here in our yoga practice, our breath practice, and this being a moving meditation and in our seated meditation practice, are training ourselves to be more mindful and to take that out of our practices into our life, to be more conscientious, more mindful, less unconscious or mindless. So we're looking to be more present for the moments of our life. And I love one of the ways that Jack, and a lot of Buddhist psychologists talk about this as well, it's just such a wonderful metaphor, is to look at that mindfulness as observing the weather. Now, we've talked about this in so many ways. We've talked about Viktor Frankl's The Space in Between, how our yoga practice, vinyasa, our drishti, our breath helps us create that space in between where we're just a little bit separated from stimulus and response, life and reaction. And stimulus and response, if we're looking at our studies this week, has to do not only with our thinking mind, which is a lot of what we're studying is my thought process. What am I thinking right now as I'm talking to you? But also your feeling self. Sometimes it's not that we're thinking specific thoughts with words, but that we're just having a feeling. And so I want to encourage everyone this week, I'm going to give you some fun homework that has to do with the weather. So if we're looking at this idea of following our thought process, what am I thinking throughout the day? Am I worried throughout the day? Am I letting something make me angry? And the more I think about it, the more hurt I feel and angry about it. Also, there's the feelings of love and gratitude. The more I feel grateful for where I live and all my friends and the support I have in my life right now, it just fills me with more and more gratitude, and I start to feel more joy and happiness. I just told you two ends of the spectrum, but there's a lot in between that we're oftentimes just completely unconscious of where our thinking mind is going. And so this idea of weather is for us to start looking at the patterns of our thinking as like, oh, a storm is brewing in my head, or oh, it's a cloudy day in my thinking mind right now. I'm feeling like very sad and about something. But then I want you also to, so I'm adding this as we understand more and more with the studies we've been doing with our own yoga practices, it's not just our thoughts but our feelings, and that oftentimes we realize how much the heart and our feelings really drive the thinking mind. Because we used to think it was just the other way around. So that means if I am unconsciously worrying a lot, that really dictates then my thought process. Or if I'm just feeling grateful, often that it dictates my thought process. Oh, I'm a lucky person, I'm a happy person. So this week, looking at that as weather. So if I'm sitting in this room and I'm just observing the weather outside, I can say, oh, it's windy today. I'm being blown around here and there. I was describing, obviously I've been feeling sadness lately, just missing my father. And my mom and I have been talking about encouraging each other to just sit and feel the sadness and how healthy that is. But as I was observing my sadness around that, I also realized that my sadness was really held in this feeling of love and gratitude. And so that changed even my observation of my own sadness and gave me a way to sit with it that felt even different than maybe some other times where I felt sad and it was hard to sit in it, or maybe I was ready to move out of it sooner because it didn't feel healthy to sit in it much longer. But we can't really make these choices about our thinking mind or our feeling mind if we're not first the observer. So this week I want to just encourage all of you to start paying more attention to, it's like the movie playing in front of you in your popcorn moments where you realize, it's my movie, I'm the star, I'm the director, to start to notice when the weather is changing. And then also, I wanted to add to this idea that we also experience weather patterns. I'm going to even say I live here in Southern California where it's sunny most of the time, and the weather temperatures are pretty much the same. Our winters aren't all that extreme, but it's different than someone that lives in Washington, for example. Sometimes some things are the same and other things are different. But to notice that about your own personal weather, and where you reside, is to say, to notice your own patterns, like, every time I come to the Shala, I was just giving this as an example, this is my vocation, it's what I do for a living as well. And so I was just taking note of when I'm in conference, like the way people's expressions are. And sometimes when I see all these expressions and people look really interested, or people are looking at me very lovingly, or they're nodding their head like, yes, 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 I realize that it becomes this pattern in my life where I'm like, I love teaching conference, people seem to really enjoy it, and I can't wait to come back and do it again. And it creates this thing that happens for me where I get excited about studying and preparing the next conference and the next semester and the next teaching because of this pattern I'm in with my students, and T sitting in front of me always looks interested in whatever I'm talking about. Thank goodness. So notice that. Notice in your life where there's something going on and it's also a pattern for you, because I know for me sometimes I can notice where, this particular part of my life, like the business part of the yoga, is where I might find myself worrying more, and that becomes a pattern for me as well. So to this week, I just want to encourage everyone to be the observer of your own weather, and to just start to take notice, whether you're driving or talking to another person or just sitting somewhere talking to yourself in your head, to notice it as you might notice weather, like clouds moving past and whatnot, and paying attention and being mindful around that. Our quotes this week are from Dorian Israel and myself. Dorian is an Ashtangi. One of her books, Unbound, is one of my favorite devotional books that I use. And this kind of goes with our idea of the movie playing in front of us is our own, and we're the director and the star. She said, "The mind is a projector and the universe is your screen." And I love thinking about it that way. Know that you are either confirming all of your old patterns or you are affirming new ones. Miracles are made with the mind. And then I said this a couple years ago, and I just brought it back up. It's a little Diana quote. The quality of our thoughts becomes the quality of our lives. So just paying attention to the quality of your weather and your weather patterns this week. Namaste.